Welcome to this journey through the timeless path of wisdom. A journey that spans centuries, across civilizations, thinkers, and quiet moments of reflection. From the ancient sages of Greece and Rome to the scholars of the Middle East, from medieval monasteries to the explorers and philosophers of the Renaissance and Enlightenment, and into our modern world. Here, we will explore not just knowledge, but the way intelligence transforms into wisdom, the way reflection, observation, and patience shape understanding, and how insight can guide life calmly and ethically. Imagine sitting quietly in a serene space, observing the world gently, allowing your mind to absorb each idea slowly. Each episode will guide you through history, thought, and practice, revealing how wisdom was cultivated, how it can be nurtured even today, and how, through reflection and mindful attention, you too can develop insight within yourself. Let us begin this journey together. Let us follow the footsteps of thinkers who discovered the quiet strength of understanding, and discover the way wisdom can grow within each of us. Sit back, relax, and allow the gentle flow of thought, history, and reflection to guide your mind as we embark on the path to wisdom. In the quiet darkness before thought fully awakens, we find the first spark of understanding. Intelligence is the way you use knowledge, and wisdom is the way you use your intelligence for good. Wisdom is the maturity of intelligence, the steady unfolding of insight that transforms raw information into gentle guidance. Picture a lone candle glowing inside a vast chamber, its flame soft but unwavering. That candle is intelligence, fragile yet bright. But wisdom is the hand that protects the flame so it may endure through wind and time. Tonight, we begin a calm journey across eras and civilizations, exploring how humanity learned not only to understand the world, but to understand itself. Allow your breath to slow, and imagine each idea drifting toward you like light ripples across still water. This is a sleep philosophy documentary, a gentle path leading through history's quiet corridors. Our story begins in ancient Sumer, around 3000 BCE, where clay tablets preserved some of humanity's earliest reflections on how to live with intention. Scribes working beneath oil lamps etched lores, myths, and teachings into wet clay, shaping the first written memory of civilization. They understood that intelligence alone was insufficient. Knowledge without direction leads to confusion, while knowledge guided by maturity becomes wisdom. Imagine the soft scratching of a stylus against clay, the warm glow of the lamp, the calm breath of the writer as meaning takes form. In these humble rooms of mud brick and flickering light, the seeds of wisdom were planted, growing slowly through generations. Even then, humanity sensed that life required more than rules. It required discernment, reflection, and a quiet turning inward. As the night settles around you, picture those early thinkers pausing, considering the weight of their words, aware that each insight might help someone navigate uncertainty. In that stillness, the first gentle roots of wisdom began to take hold. In the unfolding history of wisdom, our journey moves gently from Sumer to the ancient lands of Egypt, a civilization shaped by the steady rhythm of the Nile. Here, around 2600 BCE, wisdom was not merely taught, it was lived. Egyptian sages believed that the heart held a person's truth, and that true intelligence came from aligning thoughts with harmony. Picture early morning light stretching across the river, the soft shimmer of water touching the stone walls of temples carved with teachings known as the Instructions of Tarhotep. Tarhotep, a vizier of the 5th dynasty, wrote one of the oldest ethical texts ever discovered. His writings whispered guidance about humility, patience, listening, and the careful use of one's intellect. He taught that intelligence without compassion becomes arrogance, and that the wise person is the one who pauses before acting, allowing understanding to settle like sand beneath clear water. Imagine him seated in a quiet chamber, dictating words to a young scribe, his voice steady, shaped by years of observing the human heart. Egyptian philosophy did not demand brilliance, but balance. A person was encouraged to think deeply, speak softly, and act with intention. Even the great libraries of later dynasties echoed these principles, filled with papyri that urged readers to cultivate calmness before knowledge and reflection before judgment. As you drift deeper into this narrative, imagine walking through a corridor of tall columns, each one casting cool shadows across smooth stone floors. The air is still, carrying faint traces of incense, and somewhere in the distance, a soft breeze brushes past woven reeds. These spaces were built not only for worship, but for quiet thought. Wisdom, for the Egyptians, was not a sudden revelation. It was a gentle shaping of the mind, like the Nile shaping its banks, year after year. In these halls of silence, intelligence began to grow roots, and those roots reached downward toward the Dee. From the calm banks of the Nile, our quiet path continues eastward, toward the ancient lands of the Indus Valley, where the early foundations of wisdom began to take shape in ways both subtle and serene. Around 2500 BCE, the cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro rose from the earth with remarkable balance. Their streets followed precise patterns, their buildings stood in calm order, and their way of life suggested a culture that valued harmony over disorder. Even though their script remains undeciphered, the silence of their artifacts speaks gently, hinting that wisdom often appears in the spaces where people choose peace. As time moved forward, new ideas blossomed across the region. Around 1500 BCE, in the early Vedic period, sages known as rishis retreated into forests to listen to the whispers of nature. They sat beneath ancient trees, letting the wind, the stillness, and the rhythm of breath guide their reflections. Their insights became the Vedas, teachings that explored the nature of life, the universe, and the quiet truth within the human mind. Imagine a soft fire glowing at dusk, sparks drifting upward into the night sky. A rishi closes his eyes, observing the thoughts that rise and fade like smoke. Intelligence, he realizes, gathers knowledge, but wisdom understands which knowledge matters. It is the maturity of insight, the gentle shaping of the mind through patience and silence. From these reflections emerged the idea of dharma, the sense of right action aligned with awareness and responsibility. It did not demand brilliance, but presence. It invited people to act with clarity, to choose with care, and to listen inward before stepping outward. Picture yourself walking along a quiet forest path, warm earth beneath your feet, birds settling into evening rest. In this tranquil world, wisdom grew not from noise, but from stillness, reminding us that the mind becomes clearer when gently observed. As our journey continues, we move slowly toward ancient China, a place where wisdom grew like a quiet river flowing through centuries of reflection. Around 1200 BCE, during the Shang dynasty, Early inscriptions on oracle bones showed humanity asking questions about life, fate, and the meaning of correct action. These early fragments hinted that humans were beginning to search not only for answers, but for understanding. Centuries later, during the spring and autumn period, around 600 BCE, the search for wisdom deepened. This was an age of wandering thinkers, each observing the world with calm curiosity. Among them was Confucius, a teacher who believed that wisdom was built through character, kindness, and the ability to guide one's intelligence toward harmony. He taught that a wise person listens more than they speak, reflects before acting, and cultivates a heart that remains steady even in troubled times. Imagine Confucius walking along a quiet path lined with bamboo, his steps soft on the earth. A gentle breeze moves through the leaves, creating a hushed melody. He pauses often, watching people, observing nature, learning from the smallest details. Intelligence, he said, allows us to understand things, but wisdom teaches us how to live with them. Not far from his time, another voice shaped Chinese thought. Laozi, the figure behind the Tao Te Ching. His teachings described wisdom as flowing with life rather than resisting it. The Tao, he wrote, is like water, soft, quiet, and yielding, yet capable of shaping mountains over time. Wisdom, he believed, is found in simplicity, patience, and the calm acceptance of the rhythms of existence. Picture a lantern glowing in the evening mist, its light gentle, its flame untroubled. This is the spirit of early Chinese philosophy, inviting us to slow down, to breathe, and to let understanding mature naturally. In this still world, wisdom becomes not a destination, but a quiet way of moving through life. As the first episode draws to a gentle close, our journey turns toward ancient Greece, a land where wisdom began to blend observation, reason, and a deep curiosity about the human soul. Around 600 BCE, on the island of Miletus, early philosophers such as Thales watched the world carefully, searching for patterns in nature. They believed that intelligence grew through questioning, and that wisdom grew through understanding the deeper order behind those questions. A century later, in the bustling heart of Athens, Socrates walked through narrow streets, speaking with anyone who wished to think aloud. He believed that true wisdom began with admitting how little one truly knew. His calm method of questioning encouraged people to look inward, to examine their beliefs, and to let understanding unfold gradually, like morning light across stone pavements. Imagine Socrates pausing beneath an olive tree, the distant hum of the city settling into evening. His voice is gentle, reflective, guiding others to see that intelligence gathers facts, but wisdom transforms those facts into a life shaped by virtue. For him, wisdom was not loud, nor forceful. It was steady, patient, and grounded in self-awareness. Later, Plato expanded these ideas, suggesting that wisdom involved glimpsing the deeper truths behind the shifting world. His academy became a place where students sat quietly under the open sky, considering the nature of justice, beauty, and the human spirit. And Aristotle, observing the world with a calm, disciplined mind, taught that wisdom grew through experience, guided by balance and moderation. Picture a soft sunset over the Athenian hills, the sky painted in warm colors fading slowly into night. The philosophers sit in quiet conversation, letting ideas flow like gentle currents of air. Their teachings remind us that wisdom is not an achievement, but a continuous practice, a way of aligning thought, action, and purpose. As we begin the second episode, allow the mind to settle and imagine the world moving into a new era, shaped by rising kingdoms, distant trade routes, and growing networks of ideas. Wisdom did not remain in one land. It traveled quietly, carried by merchants, scholars, travelers, and storytellers. The early centuries of the Common Era became a time of gentle exchange, where different cultures shared their ways of understanding life. Our path leads first to ancient Persia, where the teachings of Zoroaster still guided many people. His philosophy, older than many traditions, taught that intelligence becomes meaningful only when used to choose what is good. He invited people to look inward, to observe their thoughts carefully, and to act with clarity rather than confusion. Picture a quiet fire temple at dawn, the flame steady, symbolizing awareness that must be tended with calm intention. As Persian culture grew, it became a bridge between civilizations. In cities along the royal roads, scholars studied astronomy, ethics, and the movement of time. They believed that wisdom required balance, that a person must learn not only from books, but from silence, patience, and experience. Their teachings suggested that understanding the world begins with understanding oneself. Far across the deserts, new ideas traveled along the Silk Road. Merchants carried spices, silk, and small bundles of written teachings. Monks shared reflections beside campfires, their voices soft beneath star-filled skies. In these gentle exchanges, wisdom drifted from one culture to another without force, carried only by curiosity and the wish to learn. Imagine a caravan resting at evening, the air cooling, the sky deepening into blue. You hear quiet conversations mixing with the sound of the wind. Here, wisdom grows naturally, not through power, but through simple human connection. From the deserts and trade routes of Persia, our journey moves gently toward India, where wisdom continued to blossom through spiritual exploration. Around the 1st century CE, scholars and sages studied the Vedas and Upanishads, texts that had guided generations. They sought to understand not only the universe, but the human mind, realizing that intelligence grows by learning facts, yet wisdom grows by reflecting on how to use them. Imagine a quiet river at dawn, mist rising softly from its surface, as a teacher sits beneath a tree, speaking in a calm voice to students seated on the earth. The Rishi explains that life is like the river. Knowledge flows endlessly, but only with careful attention does it nourish understanding. Patience, reflection, and mindfulness are the tools of wisdom, allowing intelligence to become mature and gentle. During this period, Buddhism also emerged and spread across Asia, teaching that suffering arises from desire and attachment, and that liberation comes from awareness and compassion. Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, emphasized meditation as a path to clarity. Picture him sitting beneath the Bodhi tree, eyes closed, breath steady, fully present. His insight reminds us that wisdom is not measured by how much we know, but by how skillfully we live with what we know. Across monasteries and quiet villages, teachers instructed students to observe their thoughts without judgment, to act with kindness, and to speak with care. These practices were not sudden revelations, but gradual cultivation, like tending a garden slowly, with patience and attention. As we drift along these early paths, Imagine the soft rustle of leaves, distant birds settling into evening rest, and the gentle lap of water on riverbanks. Wisdom grows here quietly, as intelligence is guided by compassion, and understanding becomes a calm presence within the mind. From the rivers and forests of India, our calm journey moves westward toward the Mediterranean world, where wisdom took on new forms in philosophy and daily life. Around the 1st century CE, Greek and Roman thinkers explored the nature of the mind, ethics, and the universe. The Stoics, for example, taught that intelligence alone is insufficient. Wisdom grows by learning to accept what cannot be changed, to act rightly, and to cultivate inner calm. Picture a quiet courtyard in Athens or Rome, sunlight streaming across stone walls, where students sit with scrolls in hand, listening as a teacher's voice moves softly through the warm air. They learn that emotions, if left unchecked, cloud judgment, but reflection and reason guide intelligence toward maturity. Wisdom, they discover, is the art of balancing understanding with action, thought with virtue. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus, a former slave, taught that freedom comes from within. Intelligence gathers knowledge, but wisdom allows a person to choose their response, to act with integrity regardless of circumstance. Imagine him speaking beneath an olive tree, calm and measured, guiding minds with quiet patience rather than force. In Rome, Seneca reminded citizens that time is precious, that reflection and self-awareness are essential to live meaningfully. His letters, written softly to friends, emphasize moderation, observation, and the importance of internal clarity. The greatest insights are often simple, like breathing slowly, observing carefully, and acting justly. As evening falls over the Mediterranean hills, picture the glow of lamps in quiet homes, shadows stretching across stone floors. Here, wisdom is cultivated gently, as intelligence learns to bend toward virtue, and understanding becomes a steady companion along the paths of life. In this stillness, the minds of ancient thinkers continue to speak to us across centuries. From the Mediterranean, our quiet journey moves north and east, toward the lands of China during the Han Dynasty, around 200 BCE to 200 CE, where wisdom intertwined with governance, morality, and daily life. Confucian thought shaped the society, teaching that intelligence alone is incomplete, and that wisdom grows from cultivating virtue, respect, and balance in every action. Imagine scholars in peaceful courtyards, paper and brushes in hand, quietly studying ancient texts. They consider how one's mind guides behavior, and how reflection shapes society. Confucian teachings emphasize that understanding the world begins by understanding oneself, and that the true measure of knowledge is how it guides life for the benefit of all. Here, wisdom is a practice, like tending a garden, each careful step bringing growth over time. Meanwhile, Daoist sages wandered mountains and rivers, observing nature with calm curiosity. Laozi's teachings remind us that life flows like water, gentle yet persistent, shaping valleys quietly over centuries. Intelligence may notice details, but wisdom learns to move with them, not against them. A soft breeze through bamboo, the gentle flow of a river, these are lessons in patience, adaptability, and harmony. Across East Asia, meditation, reflection, and ethical guidance nurtured minds that valued balance above ambition. Scholars, monks, and ordinary people alike learned to observe without judgment, act without haste, and speak with care. In these practices, Wisdom matured as intelligence learned to serve clarity, compassion, and serenity. Picture the sun dipping behind distant mountains, lanterns beginning to glow softly in quiet villages. The world grows calm, and within this stillness, the lessons of centuries converge, showing us that wisdom is cultivated gradually, patiently, in the way a river shapes stones over time. As episode 2 draws to a gentle close, our journey turns to the early Christian and Roman worlds, where wisdom continued to blend reflection, ethics, and the care of the mind. Around the 1st century CE, teachers and philosophers emphasized that intelligence is the collection of knowledge, but wisdom is the art of using it for goodness. In the quiet streets of Rome and the villages of Judea, ideas about compassion, moderation, and inner reflection began to flourish. Picture early Christians gathering softly in homes, their voices calm, discussing life, virtue, and the meaning of love. They explored how to live rightly amid uncertainty, teaching that wisdom comes not from titles or wealth, but from patience, self-restraint, and a gentle understanding of others. Their guidance was quiet yet powerful, shaping character through practice rather than force. Meanwhile, Roman thinkers such as Marcus Aurelius reflected on life in the privacy of their chambers. He wrote of observing thoughts, acting with integrity, and maintaining calm in the face of turmoil. Wisdom, he discovered, is the careful direction of intelligence toward clarity, serenity, and virtuous living. Picture him gazing across the city from a balcony, the sun setting softly, breathing in stillness, letting insight grow slowly. In these centuries, across empires and cultures, wisdom was nurtured as a patient practice. Teachers, sages, and ordinary people alike learned that understanding is cultivated in silence, reflection, and gentle observation. Intelligence may gather facts, but wisdom shapes them into a life that is kind, thoughtful, and enduring. As night settles, imagine lanterns glowing softly, winds carrying the faint murmur of distant voices, and the calm of minds absorbing lessons across time. In this stillness, we leave the 2nd episode, carrying forward the knowledge that wisdom emerges gradually, gently, as intelligence learns to serve the good. As we begin the 3rd episode, our journey turns toward the medieval world, where wisdom continued to evolve quietly through scholarship, faith, and careful observation. From the 5th to the 12th century, monasteries, libraries, and courts became centers where intelligence was cultivated, and wisdom was patiently nurtured. Here, knowledge was not just learned, it was reflected upon, written, and shared in ways that shaped entire societies. Picture monks in candlelit scriptoriums, their hands moving slowly across parchment. Each stroke is deliberate, each word considered, as they copy texts from Greece, Rome, and the East. They preserve philosophy, medicine, astronomy, and theology, understanding that intelligence grows by learning, but wisdom grows by reflecting on how knowledge shapes life. The quiet scratching of quills, the warmth of lamps, and the calm breath of dedicated minds fill these halls. In the Islamic world, scholars in Baghdad, Cairo, and Cordoba translated texts from Greek, Persian, and Indian sources. Figures such as Al-Farabi, Avicenna, and Al-Kindi studied the stars, the human body, and ethics, seeking to harmonize reason with moral understanding. They taught that intelligence must be guided by virtue, and that wisdom emerges when thought is disciplined and tempered by care. Imagine a library at dusk, sunlight fading behind arches, dust motes drifting in still air. Students and teachers sit quietly, reading, discussing, and observing the world with gentle attention. Wisdom here is not loud. It grows in silence, reflection, and repeated practice. Knowledge accumulates, but understanding deepens slowly, like roots extending beneath the surface. Across Europe, monasteries preserved similar traditions, linking past knowledge with the present. Here, wisdom matured as intelligence was disciplined, compassion cultivated, and insight deepened through patient reflection. From the quiet halls of medieval scholarship, our journey moves toward the later Middle Ages, where Europe and the Islamic world quietly exchanged knowledge across trade routes and translations. Around the 12th century, universities began to emerge, and curiosity expanded alongside faith and ethics. Scholars studied Aristotle, Plato, and the works of earlier sages, reflecting on how intelligence can be guided toward goodness. Picture a cloistered courtyard at dawn, sunlight falling softly across stone benches, where students and teachers converse in low voices. They question, debate, and write, knowing that intelligence alone gathers facts, but wisdom requires reflection, patience, and careful application of understanding. Each discussion is a quiet practice in learning how to think deeply and act rightly. In the Islamic world, thinkers such as Averroes and Al-Ghazali explored philosophy, lore, and the soul. They reminded the world that knowledge without reflection can become arrogance, and that wisdom is the shaping of the mind through contemplation, observation, and ethical guidance. Imagine candlelight flickering across manuscripts, the air calm, with only the soft rustle of turning pages. Translations of Greek texts into Arabic, Latin, and Hebrew connected scholars across continents. Knowledge flowed like a river, but wisdom became the careful bridge directing it toward understanding and virtue. In monasteries, mosques, and study halls, minds practiced patience, disciplined observation, and deliberate reflection. As evening deepens, picture the sun setting behind spires and minarets, lanterns glowing softly, voices fading into calm. Here, wisdom grows slowly, shaping thought, tempering intelligence, and guiding insight toward quiet illumination. In this stillness, centuries of reflection converge, showing that understanding is nurtured gently over time, never rushed, always tending the mind as a garden of subtle growth. Continuing through the medieval world, our journey moves toward the flowering of wisdom in monastic and scholastic traditions. Around the 13th century, thinkers such as Thomas Aquinas sought to unite reason and faith. He taught that intelligence allows us to gather knowledge, but wisdom guides us to apply it with patience, virtue, and moral clarity. Imagine him in a quiet study, candlelight illuminating parchments as he writes deliberately, each thought shaped with calm care. Across Europe, monasteries preserved ancient knowledge, copying texts, observing nature, and practicing reflection daily. Wisdom grew patiently, cultivated through disciplined study and silent contemplation. Picture a cloistered hall, the soft echo of footsteps, the gentle rustle of turning pages, forming a rhythm of serene learning. In the Islamic world, scholars in Baghdad, Cairo, and Cordoba studied medicine, astronomy, ethics, and philosophy. They taught that knowledge is valuable only when tempered by reflection and moral understanding. Picture a scholar observing the night sky, tracing constellations softly, realizing that intelligence gains meaning when guided by wisdom. Education and reflection were intertwined. Students learned that life requires calm patience, careful attention, and steady observation. Knowledge transforms into wisdom only when applied with discernment and compassion. In study halls, monasteries, and madrasas, generations practiced quiet growth, observing, reflecting, and slowly shaping understanding into serene insight. As night settles, imagine lanterns glowing softly, the air still, and thoughts drifting gently. Intelligence and reflection converge, forming roots of wisdom that endure across centuries. Let your mind rest in this calm space, absorbing stillness and reflection, nurturing understanding like a gentle, patient river flowing quietly through time. From the quiet halls of medieval scholarship, our journey moves toward the Renaissance, a time when wisdom and intelligence began to bloom together in new ways. Around the 14th and 15th centuries, thinkers, artists, and explorers sought to understand the world through careful observation, study, and reflection. Knowledge grew rapidly, but wisdom remained the gentle practice of applying insight with patience, virtue, and care. Imagine a sunlit study in Florence, where a young Leonardo da Vinci sketches the motion of birds, the flow of water, and the human form. He observes quietly, recording details with precision, knowing that intelligence gathers facts, but wisdom comes from understanding their connections, and how knowledge can serve life and the good of others. Meanwhile, scholars such as Erasmus and Pico della Mirandola explored philosophy, ethics, and human potential. They wrote calmly, reflecting on balance, virtue, and the responsible use of knowledge. Picture the soft rustle of parchment, the gentle scratching of quills, and minds at rest in quiet contemplation. Wisdom here grows slowly, like roots extending deep beneath the surface. Artists, scientists, and poets embraced observation as a tool for understanding. Intelligence allows gathering and analyzing, but wisdom teaches discernment, guiding action, and living with purpose. Imagine workshops and gardens filled with soft movement, quiet conversation, and reflection, where ideas gently take root. As evening falls over Renaissance towns, lanterns glow softly along stone streets. Intelligence is guided by patience, reflection, and ethical care, forming the foundation of wisdom. Let your mind rest here, absorbing the slow unfolding of understanding, as insight is nurtured through gentle thought and calm attention. As episode 3 draws to a close, our journey moves toward the early modern world, where wisdom continued to evolve alongside expanding knowledge and exploration. During the 16th and 17th centuries, scientists, philosophers, and thinkers observed nature, reflected deeply, and sought to apply understanding to life with care. Intelligence allowed discoveries, but wisdom remained the patient guidance of knowledge toward ethical and thoughtful action. Imagine Galileo gazing at the stars through a telescope, quiet night air around him, noting the moons of Jupiter. He gathers facts with precision, yet wisdom teaches him to consider the implications, to act responsibly, and to communicate discoveries with clarity. Observation alone informs the mind, but reflection shapes insight into lasting understanding. Meanwhile, philosophers such as Montaigne and Descartes emphasized introspection, self-awareness, and careful reasoning. They taught that intelligence without reflection can lead to error, while wisdom arises when knowledge is tempered by calm judgment, patience, and ethical consideration. Picture a study filled with gentle light, pages turning softly, minds contemplating life's deeper questions. Across Europe and beyond, artists, mathematicians, and explorers cultivated observation, experimentation, and reflection. They learned that intelligence gathers details, but wisdom discerns meaning, shaping action with care and foresight. In quiet moments, thoughts are absorbed slowly, understanding matures, and insight grows like a steady flame in a dark room. As night settles, imagine lanterns glowing softly, distant winds whispering, and minds at rest. Here, across centuries, intelligence and reflection converge to form wisdom, guiding action, shaping thought, and illuminating understanding. Let your mind rest gently with these lessons, as the calm unfolding of insight continues quietly through time. As we begin the fourth episode, our journey moves into the Enlightenment and early modern era, a time when wisdom and intelligence were explored through reason, observation, and reflection. From the 17th to the 18th century, thinkers across Europe and beyond sought to understand humanity, society, and the natural world. Intelligence expanded rapidly with new discoveries, yet wisdom remained the careful application of knowledge for thoughtful, ethical action. Imagine a quiet study in Paris, soft candlelight illuminating the pages of a carefully written manuscript. Philosophers such as Descartes, Locke, and Voltaire observed, reflected, and reasoned, teaching that intelligence alone is insufficient. Wisdom requires discernment, patience, and understanding how knowledge can be used to improve life and guide choices. Each sentence written, each thought considered, is a gentle step toward clarity and insight. In the scientific realm, Galileo, Newton, and Leibniz observed the natural world with careful attention. They recorded, measured, and analyzed phenomena, understanding that intelligence gathers facts, but wisdom is knowing how to apply them responsibly. Picture a telescope, a falling apple, or a quiet night spent calculating the motion of planets, all serving the calm pursuit of understanding. Across salons, libraries, and observatories, thinkers cultivated reflection as a daily practice. Students and scholars learned that insight grows slowly, that knowledge must be tempered by careful judgment, and that wisdom emerges when intelligence is guided by ethical and patient thought. In quiet, reflective spaces, minds absorb lessons from history, nature, and human experience. As the evening deepens, imagine the soft glow of lanterns, the hush of a city settling, and thoughts drifting gently. Intelligence and reflection meet here, shaping understanding into wisdom, a gentle, enduring light guiding human thought and action. From the Enlightenment, our journey moves across Europe, where ideas of reason, observation, and human understanding shaped wisdom gently. During the 17th and 18th centuries, thinkers sought to discover principles that could guide life, society, and morality. Intelligence allowed them to gather knowledge, but wisdom was the patient practice of applying understanding with care and virtue. Picture a quiet study in London or Vienna, candlelight casting soft shadows across a wooden desk. Philosophers such as John Locke reflect calmly on human nature, the mind, and the moral responsibilities of knowledge. He teaches that intelligence gathers information, yet wisdom emerges only when reflection guides action and understanding informs ethical choices. Every note written, every thought considered, is a deliberate step toward clarity. In parallel, scientists like Isaac Newton observe the natural world with serene attention. The falling apple, the motion of planets, and the light of stars are carefully recorded. Intelligence collects facts, but wisdom teaches how to use those facts to understand the universe and human life responsibly. Picture him at his desk late at night, candle flickering, mind focused, thoughts flowing steadily. Across salons, academies, and libraries, scholars discuss ideas softly, question assumptions, and meditate on ethics, society, and human purpose. Reflection is practiced as a calm daily discipline. Knowledge becomes wisdom when tempered with patience, ethical thought, and the understanding of long-term consequences. Quiet observation, careful study, and calm contemplation are the pathways to enduring insight. As night falls, imagine lanterns glowing gently, streets hushed, and minds at peace. Here, intelligence and reflection converge, forming wisdom that guides understanding, thought, and action. From the Enlightenment, our journey moves toward the early modern age of discovery and reflection, where wisdom and intelligence were applied to both science and human understanding. During the 17th and 18th centuries, explorers, scientists, and philosophers observed the world carefully, seeking to connect knowledge with thoughtful action. Intelligence collected information, yet wisdom guided its use for clarity, virtue, and the benefit of life. Imagine a quiet study or laboratory at dusk, the soft glow of a candle illuminating notes and instruments. Galileo observes the heavens, carefully recording each motion of the planets. His intelligence gathers facts, yet wisdom teaches him patience, reflection, and careful consideration of how discoveries affect understanding. Every calculation and observation becomes a step toward insight, not hurried, but deliberate. Philosophers such as Montesquieu and Rousseau reflect on society, ethics, and human behavior. They teach that knowledge alone cannot create a just life. Wisdom requires observing carefully, applying reason with fairness, and cultivating empathy. Picture their calm studies, soft rustle of papers, voices quietly discussing ideas that will influence generations. Reflection here is slow, deliberate, and steady. In universities, libraries, and salons, students and scholars practice patience and observation. They learn that intelligence collects, but wisdom discerns meaning, balances competing ideas, and guides action responsibly. Quiet contemplation, careful writing, and attentive study create the steady growth of understanding, allowing insight to develop gradually like a gentle river flowing through time. From the early modern world, our journey moves gently toward the age of enlightenment, where wisdom and intelligence were guided by reason, observation, and ethical reflection. During the 18th century, thinkers across Europe considered how knowledge could improve life, society, and the human mind. Intelligence gathered facts, yet wisdom was the patient practice of applying understanding thoughtfully and responsibly. Picture a quiet study in Paris or Vienna, candlelight flickering softly across papers and books. Philosophers such as Voltaire, Rousseau, and Diderot reflect on human nature, society, and ethics. They remind us that intelligence collects knowledge, but wisdom guides how it is used, how it shapes behavior, and how it improves the world. Every careful note, every soft discussion, is a step toward insight, calm and deliberate. In the scientific realm, Thinkers like Newton and Harvey observed the natural world carefully. They record observations, test hypotheses, and reason patiently. Intelligence allows them to see patterns and laws, yet wisdom ensures their discoveries serve understanding, compassion, and practical good. Imagine instruments glowing softly in candlelight, minds focused and still, gathering knowledge while tempering it with reflection. Across libraries, salons, and academies, students and scholars practice reflection as a daily habit. Knowledge becomes wisdom when combined with patience, ethical awareness, and careful attention to consequences. Quiet observation, slow contemplation, and calm study allow insight to grow steadily, like roots extending beneath the surface. As night falls, picture soft lanterns along quiet streets, the world calm, and thoughts drifting gently. Here, intelligence and reflection meet, forming wisdom that endures, guiding understanding, thought, and action. Let your mind rest in this stillness, absorbing insight slowly, patiently, and with gentle care across the centuries. As episode 4 concludes, our journey moves toward the 19th century, where wisdom and intelligence were explored through reflection, study, and observation of both nature and society. Thinkers, scientists, and writers sought to understand humanity and the world, applying knowledge with care. Intelligence collected facts, yet wisdom guided their use, shaping thought, action, and ethical judgment. Imagine a quiet study in London or Vienna, candlelight soft, papers spread across a desk. Philosophers such as Kant and Hegel reflect calmly on reason, morality, and human responsibility. They teach that intelligence allows understanding of complex ideas, yet wisdom emerges when insight guides action, decision, and the care of self and others. Each word written, each thought considered, is a deliberate step toward calm comprehension. In the natural sciences, explorers, chemists, and biologists study life, recording observations patiently. Knowledge accumulates, yet wisdom grows when it is reflected upon, integrated into life, and applied for the good of people and society. Picture specimens, notebooks, and quiet contemplation, where careful observation becomes understanding, and understanding becomes calm insight. Across libraries, universities, and quiet study rooms, scholars practice reflection daily. Intelligence gathers knowledge, yet wisdom emerges only when it is tempered with patience, ethical thought, and mindful application. Insight grows like a slow river, steady and enduring, moving gently through generations of careful observation and contemplation. As night settles, lanterns glow softly, streets are still, and minds rest in calm reflection. Across centuries, intelligence and reflection converge to form wisdom, guiding thought, action, and understanding. Let your mind rest in this gentle stillness, allowing insight to settle slowly, nurturing clarity, compassion, and understanding through time. As we begin episode 5, our journey moves into the 19th and early 20th centuries, a time when wisdom and intelligence were explored through science, philosophy, and observation of society. Thinkers, scientists, and educators sought to understand humanity, the natural world, and the mind, applying knowledge with care. Intelligence gathered information, yet wisdom emerged when knowledge was reflected upon and used thoughtfully. Picture a quiet study in Berlin or Paris, soft candlelight illuminating books and papers. Philosophers such as Hegel, Schopenhauer, and Kant reflected on morality, consciousness, and human responsibility. They taught that intelligence collects facts, yet wisdom guides their use for thoughtful, ethical action. Every note written, every question pondered, is a careful step toward insight, calm and deliberate. In science, figures like Darwin and Mendel observed nature closely, recording details patiently. Knowledge accumulates, yet wisdom grows when observations are considered thoughtfully, applied responsibly, and connected to ethical understanding. Imagine notebooks filled with careful observations, instruments set aside, and minds quietly contemplating patterns in life. Across classrooms, libraries, and laboratories, reflection became a daily practice. Students and scholars learned that intelligence alone does not ensure understanding. Wisdom is cultivated through patience, careful thought, ethical consideration, and the slow integration of knowledge into meaningful action. Insight develops steadily, like a gentle river carving a quiet path through time. As night falls, picture lanterns glowing softly, streets still, and minds resting in calm contemplation. Intelligence and reflection converge here, forming wisdom that endures, guiding thought, action, and understanding. Let your mind rest in this gentle stillness, allowing insight to grow slowly, nurturing clarity, compassion, and understanding across generations. As we continue into the 19th and early 20th centuries, our journey moves toward the human mind itself. Psychology and philosophy began to explore consciousness, memory, and reasoning. Figures such as William James, Freud, and Jung observed the mind with quiet attention, understanding that intelligence collects knowledge, yet wisdom emerges when we learn to understand ourselves, our emotions, and our choices. Picture a softly lit room, a scholar sitting calmly, notebook open, hand poised. He observes the subtle reactions of people, the way thoughts shape behavior, the quiet patterns of dreams. Intelligence allows observation, yet wisdom grows when we interpret what we see with patience and reflection, learning to act with insight, not impulse. Meanwhile, the industrial and social revolutions reshaped human life. Cities expanded, machines moved faster than people, and information multiplied. Yet thinkers reminded humanity that progress alone does not create wisdom. True understanding comes from reflection, from quiet observation of life, from noticing the small human gestures that reveal meaning in the midst of change. Imagine a soft evening walk along a river in a busy city. Smoke drifts from chimneys, children laugh quietly, a solitary figure watches the water, thinking about the day. Intelligence notices patterns, events, and cause and effect, but wisdom pauses, listens, and considers how knowledge should guide action and cultivate empathy. Across schools, hospitals, and laboratories, reflection became more deliberate. Observing not just facts but their human impact, scholars and citizens practiced slow, thoughtful understanding. Here, wisdom emerges not only from what we know, but from how we use knowledge to act gently, ethically, and with awareness of the interconnectedness of life. As our journey reaches the modern era, we observe how wisdom has gradually lost priority in daily life. In the 20th and 21st centuries, the rise of consumerism, rapid technology, and social networks often distract attention from reflection, contemplation, and deliberate action. Intelligence is still gathered, Yet the calm, patient cultivation of wisdom is sometimes overlooked, buried beneath endless information and constant stimulation. Picture a city street in the evening, lights flashing, advertisements glowing, people scrolling on devices, voices mingling with the hum of traffic. Attention is drawn outward, not inward. Modern life offers knowledge at our fingertips, yet without reflection, it does not become insight. Wisdom requires slowing down, observing carefully, and considering the meaning of information before acting. Social networks bring connection, but also distraction. Endless streams of posts, opinions, and images encourage reaction rather than reflection. Intelligence absorbs data quickly, yet wisdom, like a river, grows slowly, fed by patience, observation, and quiet thought. Ancient thinkers taught that understanding emerges in calm observation, careful reflection, and mindful practice, habits that modern life often interrupts. Yet this moment carries opportunity. Even in a world of distraction, wisdom can be cultivated within ourselves. By observing, reflecting, and practicing thoughtful action, as the sages of the past did, we can reclaim the quiet growth of insight. It is not lost, it waits in stillness, in moments we choose to slow down, to think, and to act with care. Imagine a quiet room, a gentle evening, and your mind turning inward. Here, you can cultivate patience, reflection, and understanding. Intelligence transforms into wisdom when guided by calm observation and ethical choice. As ancient thinkers showed, the path to wisdom begins within, and it is available to anyone willing to embrace stillness and reflection. In the modern world, the pursuit of speed and convenience often competes with the slow cultivation of wisdom. Notifications, messages, and endless tasks demand attention, fragmenting thought and reflection. Intelligence is available instantly, yet without patience, observation, and careful consideration, it rarely transforms into true insight or understanding. Picture a commuter on a busy subway, eyes on a screen, scrolling through endless feeds. The mind absorbs information rapidly, yet reflection is scarce. Wisdom, unlike knowledge, is not measured by quantity but by how intelligence is applied. Ancient sages practiced patience, contemplation, and mindful observation. Today, these same habits can be deliberately chosen to counterbalance the noise of daily life. Consider the consumer culture that surrounds us: constant advertisements, material desires, and fleeting trends. They pull focus outward, encouraging reaction over reflection. Yet even in this environment, wisdom can emerge when we pause, notice patterns, and question priorities. Observing our choices, our impulses, and the effects of our actions allows insight to grow quietly, like roots beneath the surface. Social networks offer connection, but often promote comparison and haste. Reflection slows thought, deepens understanding, and transforms raw knowledge into guidance for life. Imagine closing the screen, taking a quiet moment to observe thoughts, breathe, and consider the meaning of experiences. Intelligence becomes meaningful, and wisdom begins to emerge from calm practice. Even today, the ancient path remains available. Through stillness, observation, and deliberate reflection, anyone can nurture wisdom within themselves. Like the philosophers of old, we can choose moments of pause, cultivate understanding, and act with insight. Modern distractions may abound, yet the inner cultivation of wisdom is timeless, patient, and always accessible. As we continue through the modern age, it becomes clear that wisdom requires intentional effort. While technology and information surround us, they do not automatically create understanding. Social media, advertisements, and constant notifications encourage reaction over reflection. Intelligence accumulates rapidly, yet wisdom grows only through deliberate attention, patience, and ethical thought. Picture a quiet morning before the noise of the day begins. A person sits by a window, observing the world outside, the shifting light, the rhythm of life, the small interactions that often go unnoticed. In this calm observation, intelligence begins to transform. Reflection allows understanding of not just facts, but meaning, connection, and consequence. Modern education and self-help culture emphasize productivity, efficiency, and achievement. These are valuable skills, yet without reflection, they risk neglecting the cultivation of wisdom. Imagine taking time each day to pause, journal, or contemplate choices. Like ancient philosophers, we can create rituals that nurture insight, guiding intelligence toward ethical and meaningful action. Even in a world of constant distraction, opportunities for wisdom exist. Listening carefully, observing closely, and acting with intention are practices that require no technology, only presence. Patience and reflection allow the mind to absorb knowledge and shape it into understanding. In these moments, modern life slows, and wisdom quietly re-emerges, following the timeless patterns of past thinkers. As evening falls, imagine a quiet room, the soft glow of light, and a mind at rest. Here, wisdom is not distant or abstract. It is cultivated within, patiently and deliberately. Intelligence becomes meaningful when shaped by reflection, ethical thought, and mindful observation. The path is always available, waiting for those who choose to nurture insight and understanding within themselves. In today's world, the cultivation of wisdom is often challenged by speed, distraction, and constant information. Modern life encourages multitasking, reacting, and consuming, leaving little time for reflection. Intelligence is abundant, yet wisdom requires intentional practice, calm observation, and the patience to turn knowledge into meaningful insight. Picture a quiet moment at home, away from screens and noise. A person sits with a notebook, noting thoughts, reflecting on decisions, and observing patterns in daily life. In these moments, we reconnect with the practices of ancient thinkers. Reflection transforms intelligence into understanding, allowing ethical and deliberate action in daily life. Even social networks, while often distracting, can be approached with awareness. Choosing what to engage with, pausing before reacting, and reflecting on content rather than consuming it blindly. These small acts cultivate modern wisdom. Observe the world, consider consequences, and practice restraint. Insight grows slowly, like a hidden river flowing beneath the surface, waiting for calm attention. Consider also the pace of work, travel, and communication. Modern life often pushes for immediate results and rapid decisions. Yet wisdom emerges when we slow down, notice details others overlook, and make choices informed by reflection and ethical awareness. Ancient philosophers cultivated patience, attention, and deliberate thought, practices that remain valuable today. As evening settles, imagine soft light in a quiet room, thoughts flowing calmly, and a mind at rest. Wisdom is not lost, but must be intentionally nurtured. By observing, reflecting, and acting with care, anyone can cultivate insight within themselves. The modern world may distract, yet the path to wisdom is always accessible, waiting for those who choose to walk it with patience and attention. As we conclude our journey, it is clear that wisdom remains possible even in the modern world. Despite distractions, consumerism, and constant digital noise, the practices of observation, reflection, and mindful action can still cultivate insight within ourselves. Intelligence alone gathers facts, but wisdom transforms knowledge into thoughtful, ethical, and meaningful life. Picture a quiet evening, soft light falling across a room, a mind turning inward. Observe your thoughts, notice your choices, and reflect on actions of the day. Like the sages of ancient times, you can pause, consider, and act deliberately. These moments are the seeds of wisdom, small yet enduring, quietly shaping understanding, empathy, and clarity. Modern life offers challenges, yet also opportunity. By creating spaces for stillness, choosing reflection over reaction, and observing the world with calm attention, we reclaim the slow cultivation of wisdom. Ancient thinkers taught that insight grows steadily, through patient practice, careful observation, and ethical consideration. This practice is timeless, and it remains accessible to anyone willing to nurture it. Imagine stepping away from screens, slowing down, and noticing the small details of life. A conversation, a gesture, the rhythm of nature, or the quiet of thought. Each is a chance to practice reflection, integrate knowledge, and transform intelligence into wisdom. The modern world need not diminish understanding. It can inspire mindful cultivation of insight. As night settles and thoughts drift calmly, remember this: wisdom is within reach for every mind willing to pause, reflect, and act thoughtfully. Like those before us, we can choose patience, observation, and ethical reflection. In this quiet, deliberate cultivation, intelligence matures, insight deepens, and wisdom lives again, patiently and quietly, ready to guide our lives. As our journey comes to a close, remember that wisdom is not a distant gift. It is cultivated patiently, through observation, reflection, and mindful action. Across centuries, thinkers, philosophers, and quiet minds have shown us the path. From ancient Greece and Rome, through medieval halls, Renaissance workshops, and Enlightenment studies, to the challenges of our modern world. Each moment of reflection, each calm observation, brings insight, and shapes the way we live with understanding, care, and ethical thought. Take a moment now to let these ideas settle within your mind. Allow the quiet practice of reflection to guide your thoughts, and the gentle growth of wisdom to inspire your actions. Remember that intelligence becomes meaningful only when tempered by patience, ethical awareness, and mindful reflection. You too can cultivate insight, just as the sages of history have done. If this journey has inspired you, take it forward into your life. Observe, reflect, and act with care. Let wisdom grow quietly, and allow it to illuminate your understanding, your decisions, and your path. Thank you for joining this journey. for exploring the timeless practice of cultivating wisdom. May your mind rest gently, and may insight continue to grow within you.